It's Saturday evening. It's time to talk about the very best comic books that you can buy and read this week with my good friend Drew from Comics Lead. How you doing, Drew?
Doing great, Wes. Yeah, it was a interesting week. Some shined better than others. And let's talk about those comics that did shine better than the other ones.
Felt like it was a DC Comics week. They actually had probably the most good comic books.
Yeah, in a very long time. There were quite a few from DC I very much did enjoy, one of which in particular was a surprise how much I enjoyed it.
I'm with you there, but really the best comic book of the week is Mark Millar's Big Game #3 Image Comics, Pepe Larraz on art. And I'm kind of running out of words to describe this comic book. I don't want to spoil it because what happens in here is absolutely phenomenal, and I don't want people to miss out on some of these big moments because it felt like after issue #2 that probably the carnage was over. Maybe he couldn't kill off any more of his original heroes. That is not the case. Mark Millar is going to town, and he's making this comic book feel like the stakes are through the roof, something Marvel and DC haven't been able to do in about a decade now.
Yeah, you're right. Normally in an event like this, at this point, the creators will have let off the gas and make it very exposition heavy. But no, Mark Millar, his foot is still on the gas. He's still going full throttle. There are still deaths in this, some very shocking deaths in this. And where we wind up at the end of this issue, it's very interesting, but it kind of makes sense because we talked behind the scenes, you can't cause this much damage and destruction without doing a little fixing in the end. But I am enjoying the ride so far, and I'm very curious to see how Mark more or less kind of corrects how things are going right now, because it's pretty bad if you're a hero right now.
Well, I want to talk about Kick-Ass. Everybody loves Kick-Ass. It was the big movie. He's kind of been sitting in the background of this. Yes, he knows what's going on, but he hasn't had that moment where he felt it was time for him to step up. Maybe he thought he didn't have what it takes anymore, and he finally steps up this week. I thought that was probably the best moment of the entire comic book. It was awesome.
Yeah, it was great. And, it was very interesting. It was cool seeing him, how he's grown up now. He's in his mid to late 30s. He's married. He has a very, 9-to-5 type job and day, just nothing exciting. And then this call to action happens, and he feels like this is his calling. He needs to go answer the call, and his wife is scared naturally. He makes a heroic sacrifice. He knows that this is meant for him. This is what he has to do. And he puts on the costume once again. And it's great to see him put it back on and, step up like the hero that he is. Not for selfish reasons, but for selfless reasons.
Yeah, that was a cool moment. And I liked how Mark Millar was also twisting the needle into Marvel and DC with this monologue. He's like, they don't even sell comic books at my comic shops anymore. I don't even believe in the heroes. It's time for me to believe in myself. While he's taking a few little jabs. I thought it was good.
It's great, and hey, it is very much true. I mean, you talk to a lot of comic book shops. Yeah, they've given up on comics. They're selling the little tchotchkes. They're selling the Pokemons. They're selling the magic cards. But comics, yeah, they stopped selling them a lot of the stores. So yeah, there's a lot of truth in there, which is a shame.
And people are going to be really excited about this one. We really haven't seen Huck. But if you look at the cover, he obviously had already spoiled what was going to happen there. We do see Huck. He's on the very first few pages of this comic book, and that's kind of an exciting development as well.
It is. It was cool seeing Huck again, and I do have I have a theory about Huck, about his family lineage. Hopefully, I'm right about that. I'm not going to spoil it, but I think he's related to a certain. He's not necessarily a prime named character in this universe he's created, but created to a character that was pretty much the apotheosis of the killing of the superheroes. I think I know who his father. I have an idea who his father is. But yeah, it's great seeing Huck again. It's been a very long time, been well over a decade, I think, since we've seen him. But yeah, Huck is being the hero that he is. It was great seeing that.
And really, the standout in the comic book, the big one doing really heroic stuff, is Hit Girl. She ends up in a very strange place at the very, very last page. Really exciting, strange, befuddling, almost cliffhanger that you see there. And I do think he's also setting up how Mark Millar is going to backtrack some of this, because the body count in this, I don't want to theorize. It's very, very high, and it feels like it's ran through almost all of his characters and titles that he would be working with on the future. So he's going to have to undo at least some of it to actually move forward with Millar World, unless he wants this to be the end of everything he does, which I don't get that impression. So he's definitely laying the groundwork how he's going to smartly kind of get him out of some of this stuff.
I told you behind the scenes that I read the preview for the next issue, the first few pages, and he is setting up how things may or may not get corrected, and is bringing in more characters that I had completely forgotten about. He'd written almost a decade ago, and I was like, "Who the hell are these people?" I'm like,
"So there's going to be more cameos." I didn't think we could have more cameos.
Oh, there are even more cameos, characters that like I said, completely forgot about. And so he's going to be, this is a pretty interesting way. And it starts off like kind of a head scratch. Wait, what's going on here? And it's going to get interesting.
If you're a DC Comics or a Marvel Comics writer and you want to do an event, go and study Big Game. This is the perfect, I guess, mixture of enormous moments. You got big stakes. You do get cameos and you have things happening that all make sense and the pacing's perfect. This is how you blow it up. This is how you get people excited. This is how you make things actually matter and keep people coming back to their comic book shop to read the next issue. Make it feel important. Absolutely.
I mean, Mark Millar is doing the textbook version of an event. This is how you do it correctly. And like you said, as a writer, I am studying his stuff. I'm seeing how to do it correctly because this is how you do it. This is textbook. And he's making it fun, interesting, and engaging. And he's not letting off the gas, which is exactly what I want to do as a storyteller.
Yeah, so that was absolutely amazing. That is the number one recommendation of the week. Bar none, these are all really good, but they ain't Big Game number 3 good. Let's just put it that way.
Very true.
Now let's get into the big 2 because he's making them look like fools, but they did have a few good showings. We will recommend from Marvel Comics Captain America number 1, J. Michael Straczynski, Jesus Saez on this one. I am not the biggest fan of Jesus Saez as a superhero comic book artist, and I still feel that way after Captain America number 1. And I don't think my mind is ever going to be changed on that. But the story itself by J. Michael Straczynski really trying to pull back on what we've been getting from Captain America for a very long time and remind you, yes, he is superpowered. Yes, he can go to space. Yes, he does all these things in a superhero life. But at the core of the character, Steve Rogers is every man, and he's somebody that you can root for. He's somebody that you can believe in, and he's somebody that you would want to be your neighbor because he'll look out for you if bad things are happening to you. And in that vein, I think it's very effective. I would have preferred something that was a bigger, I don't know, explosive action type thing to really show you that things are changing with Steve Rogers. But I think going back, resetting the table, and also reminding people why Steve Rogers is awesome is another good way to go.
Yeah, and what you just said is right. Like reminding people of who Steve Rogers is. And this issue does a great job of showing us and reminding people or educating people on who Steve Rogers is, his origins, how he grew up, what he had to do. And a lot of people forget America and then in the early 1900s was not a fantasy land. It was not great. It wasn't a land where you could do whatever the hell you wanted to. It was very much a struggle to survive. And we see that in Steve Rogers. He was struggling to survive. He was starving. He was homeless. He wasn't taking any handouts. He was working his butt off. And that shows you the type of character that Steve Rogers has. And he was not a victim. He never saw himself as a victim, despite himself being poor and homeless. He worked his butt off. And that's what makes him great. That's what makes him Captain America. That constant fighting, for better. And like I said, the art in this, it's good. It's okay. He's not my favorite artist. Not the worst, but it's okay. The story is interesting. How it ends is interesting too. That could go one of a couple ways. I hope it doesn't go toward the Nick Spencer direction, but I'm very much curious to see what happens. This was probably the first really great. I don't necessarily say great, but first solid good issue of Captain America we've had in well over a decade, since before Nick Spencer took over.
Yeah, it's the first thing to get excited about since really Ed Brubaker was on the run. And that's been a long time since he's been on Captain America. Now let's move over to DC Comics. We said they had the best week. We've got 3 DC Comics we definitely need to tell you about. First up, Green Lantern War Journal number 1. I actually did a full review on my Patreon. That was a Patreon exclusive review this week that they voted on. Philip Kennedy Johnson, Montos on art on this one. It's just continuing all the stuff that was set up in the backup stories of the Jeremy Adams Green Lantern run. There was also a one-shot that kind of preludes to this as well. And we've been hearing about the Revenant Queen and all that kind of stuff. And it appears that she has arrived in Earth Prime. She has arrived in our multiverse after trying to murder all the versions of John Stewart throughout the other multiverses very interesting thing going on while he's still dealing with not being a Green Lantern anymore. You know, he gave it up. The United Planets have taken over. He's returned to Earth, but he hasn't given up his Green Lantern powers. Apparently, he doesn't need a ring. He gets confronted about that, and we also see another Green Lantern that shows up from another multiverse that was there when it was destroyed by the Revenant Queen. The art is interesting. It's not my favorite comic book art in the world. When there are things happening, there are action and there are things moving, I think it's pretty effective. But when it's like character moments and it's just facial features of people talking, it kind of loses me. But it's a good comic book.
I'll agree with you on the art. Like I love the art in the aspect because there are parts of this book where it comes across as like a horror story, and like the opening
feel Blackest Night a lot in this book.
Absolutely, especially the opening of this. Whereas I think this is where he fits well as an artist because he does that horror and action great. Is terrific, and yeah, like you said, the character moments, you know, where he's kind of talking to his mom, whatever. It's like. It kind of works, but it's where the horror and action is. That's where his art is. But yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed the story. The Philip Kennedy Johnson here, he's telling a great story with Jon Stewart and his family, his mom, his motivations, his backstory. It's kind of sad. It gets into more of the mom's backstory. It's very good. I do love what happens with the one Green Lantern that shows up and that Jon Stewart just pretty much, you know, just schools him on being a Green Lantern. And just more or less kicks him off of Earth. It's amazing. I love it. And,
I want to intervene right here. I think that was really effective because we did see in Wonder Woman #1, which we're not going to recommend, Wonder Woman faces the big bad guy, Sarge Steel, in that comic book and absolutely annihilates him and breaks his hand, which I don't think is effective storytelling because you basically neuter the bad guy. In here, you're not really neutering any major characters or a villain, but you are showing that Jon Stewart is really fucking strong because the guy with the ring didn't stand a chance because he didn't even know what he was doing.
Exactly. He didn't know. We all thought John was powerless. We all thought he didn't have his ring anymore. And then all of a sudden John with, you know, he shows restraint, but at that point when he's pushed, he pushes back and he pushes back hard. And it's like, oh crap, he messed with the wrong guy. And that's great. And I didn't see it coming. You didn't see it. No one saw it coming. And I can't wait to see what happens next. It is terrific. And the way I kind of see it symbolically, because the guy was sent there from like the United Planets, whatever, and he kicks him off of Earth. I kind of see that as like a getting rid of whatever happened in the last Jon Stewart run. You know, we're kicking him out of here. We're kicking this story out of here. We're getting rid of that crap. And I love this new direction. We're going with Philip Kennedy Johnson.
Yeah, I quite like that one, and I really enjoyed it reviewing that on the Patreon. Another comic book that we have to recommend, Batman Superman World's Finest #19. Mark Waid, Travis Moore, once again, definitely still missing that Dan Mora art. And there's not a whole lot to this comic book story. It's meant to be a little filler story to kind of get you ready for the Kingdom Come thing that's happening. And I do believe he's also setting up the way that that's going to happen in this little mini story, him being Mark Waid. And, you know, the stakes aren't very high. You've got Batman in the Phantom Zone and Alfred is in the Phantom Zone and people from Gotham are in the Phantom Zone and they're talking to Superman because there's cracks and all this stuff happening. And there's a big action scene and it's fine for what it is. And it is a fun comic book. But there's not a whole lot to chew on, and it doesn't feel quite up to par with the other stories that Mark Waid has done in Batman Superman World's Finest. But on a whole, it's perfectly fine, and I think fans of the title will enjoy it while they get ready for the Kingdom Come universe returning next issue.
Yes, absolutely. And I'm going to defend this issue because I enjoyed it. And my brother Kyle, he didn't like it, but I had to remind him, hey, this is just a two-parter. It's kind of a placeholder until we get to the Kingdom Come story. But the thing is about the story, it's a Silver Age type story where we're getting introduced to like the first team up meeting of Superman and Batman. And I can go with that in that vein. Because you look at the way Batman is illustrated, he is very much illustrated in the Silver Age style. And I can absolutely go with that. When you get the Phantom Zone projector, the Fortress of Solitude, all the different gadgets in there, I am having fun with that. It is perfectly fine. It is great as a Silver Age story, and it's fun. But if you want something like you said, like deeper, darker, more meat to chew on, this isn't going to be for you. This is just straight up fun. This is just mindless fun going with this, and I had a blast. And honestly, I would recommend this issue to kids. I think kids could really have fun with this issue in the first these two issues. Yeah,
it's still fine. It's not quite up to what we've had in Batman Superman World's Finest. but it's still good. Like,
Yes,
we've said in the past, even the weakest stuff is still worth reading. And this
absolutely, yeah. The weakest stuff outshines anything else from DC or Marvel. Hell, most 99% of Marvel.
Yeah. So let's go to our final recommendation. This one really surprised me. I have been enjoying Superman by Josh Williamson. I've been really enjoying the Jamal Campbell art. I thought it was absolutely fantastic, really fit the story. This week, Gleb Melnikov fills in as the artist, and I thought it was a really strange, really odd choice as a Superman artist, specifically filling in for Jamal Campbell. And my goodness, at the very beginning, I was skeptical. I was looking at it. I was like, I'm not sure I like this. I like what he's attempting to do because he was taking really big chances with the art. And you could see Gleb Melnikov maybe thinks this will be the only Superman comic book he ever illustrates in his lifetime. And he wanted to do everything that he could. And by the end, I was loving it. I couldn't believe how well he did this. I was absolutely sold on it. And the story from Josh Williamson is absolutely fine as well. There's this prison that was created by Lex Luthor and Stryker and another guy, and it's beneath Stryker Penitentiary or whatever. And finally, Superman finds out about it. Lex Luthor is in a coma or whatever, and he decides to go investigate. And we meet this new villain. I'm assuming his name is Chained. It's pretty interesting stuff. I think Gleb Melnikov is the right artist to introduce Chained.
Yes, I agree. Because what we're setting up in the next issue, I'm expecting a full-on drag-out fight between Superman and the Chain. It looks like it's going to be like a Dragon Ball Z, like Goku versus
I'm not expecting
Vegeta.
that at all. Superman is he can't get out. He's done.
Is he? I don't know. We'll see. Maybe. I don't know.
I'm assuming Chain's going to take down all of Metropolis.
That would be cool. That'd be very cool to see.
Because he says, because he doesn't care about Superman. He hates Lex Luthor, and he said,
yes,
the people of Metropolis love Lex Luthor. I have to destroy Metropolis. I was like, that's pretty good.
Yeah, because as soon as he heard the name Lex Luthor, that's what kind of triggered him. And it honestly, the setup of this, it very much reminds me of the Earth's Mightiest Heroes Avengers animated series from like 10, 15 years ago that Christos Gage was writing, Christopher Yost, how they introduced that villain, was it not Galvatron?
That's a Transformer.
Yeah, that's a Transformer, yeah. But this guy who controlled gravity. Gravitron, maybe that was his name. I don't know. But how he was chained, locked away, but he was freed and just kind of goes crazy in the city. And I'm kind of it kind of set up the same way as this. And but the art is interesting. It's a different choice. It's bold. He's very much in the great Capullo type style of art, and how it opens in the action scene, the bank, like the truck chase. I enjoyed it, and I'm very much curious to see where it goes to next. I'm expecting a fun issue in the next issue. I really want to see it.
I'm expecting a lot of destruction, and I was pleasantly surprised. I like Gleb Melnikov as an artist, particularly. I think he's really good, and I was blown away by his art in this one. I thought it was excellent. So, some really strong recommendations. Nothing better than Big Game, but definitely check out Green Lantern War Journal if you like your superheroes with more of a horror vibe to them, and definitely check out Superman. That's a really good story, and it feels like it's setting up some good stuff. Now, Drew, you also are a comic book writer. You wanted to remind people of something. What was it?
Yes, I want to remind people to go to Kickstarter, type in Unholy Nightmare on Kickstarter, sign up right now, type in your email address, get notified when we go live. It should be Halloween, maybe Halloween night. We'll see what happens, but this is when we're planning on to launch this. Aurelia Mazzara and I, we've worked our butts off to tell a great horror superhero action story here. You guys will love it. The art, the pages, the covers, they're going to blow you away, and it's going to blow anything away from the big two. Trust me on this. You're not going to want to miss Unholy Nightmare on Kickstarter. Please sign up now, guys.
We are at the end of the road, but this does not have to be the end of the journey. In fact, I've made more videos than I can really even count at this point, and YouTube has looked at what you like to watch and what I like to create and decided this here is the best video I ever created specifically for you in the history of my life. Keep the journey going. Watch this right now.